Yo, we step up in the scene, check your engine is clean. DPF guys got your ride smoking green. No block, no drag, just pure machine. Come show us your truck, we'll make it pristine. We just wanna know, can your diesel uphold? Bring something dirty, we'll turn it to gold. It's like this, we clean up your flow. Now your engine is gliding. It's time to hit the road.
Okay, welcome everyone. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Thanks for tuning in to another DPF Guys live Q&A. Before we get started, take a second to hit that subscribe button on youtube.com/DPF Guys so you don't miss any future live streams or videos or anything else interesting we are doing during the week. If you're watching this somewhere else other than YouTube, make sure you head over to youtube.com/DPF Guys to join the conversation. For those of you who are new here, hi there, I'm James from DPF Guys, and we are your go-to diesel aftertreatment experts. Whether you're an owner-operator, a fleet manager, or a repair shop owner, we specialize in keeping your trucks running clean, compliant, and on the road where they belong. We work on everything with the diesel engine, from light-duty pickups and RVs to heavy equipment, skid steers, and even generators. If it has a DPF, we've got you covered. If you need help with DPF cleaning, after-treatment diagnostics, or replacement DPF filters or DOCs, anything like that, call or text us anytime, 404-999-1361. Again, you can even call or text us right now. We always have a machine or anything there to listen and help you out. So give us a call at 404-999-1361 anytime, day or night, and we will get back to you. And of course, this is a live Q&A. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them during the session. One quick note, always consult your mechanic for specific issues, and any pricing we talk about today is for reference only and not an official quote. If you want an official quote, we'd be happy to get one to you. Okay, let's get started. Question number one. Why is my truck struggling to do a regen, and what can I do about it? All right, if your truck is struggling to complete a regen, there are a number of possible causes, and I'll try to touch on as many of them as I can think of right now. And it's not just always about soot buildup. The regen process relies on high exhaust temperatures to burn off accumulated soot, but if your truck isn't reaching the correct temperatures, the regen cycle won't complete properly. Over time, this leads to a DPF that's too clogged for regens to work at all. And so what are a couple common causes of regen failure? A lot of times what we see is exhaust leaks, loose clamps, cracked pipes, and especially the bellows or the downpipe from the turbo that can get just a tiny hairline crack in it, and that'll be enough to prevent your truck from properly regenerating. One of the most overlooked causes of regen failure is an exhaust leak upstream of the aftertreatment system, and that would be especially the downpipe from the turbo. Loose clamps, or cracks in the exhaust pipe, and especially in the bellows downpipe. Recently, we've seen this exact issue on a Mac and an International. Both had cracked downpipes, which cause regen failures and excessive soot buildup. Another thing is possible issues with your seventh injector. A lot of seventh injectors are driven by compressed air, so something as simple as an air leak or frozen air lines or other failures in the compressed air system can cause an issue with the seventh injector. If your air system has leaks or freezes in cold weather, the seventh injector may fail to properly inject fuel into the exhaust, making regen simply impossible. I'm going to bump up my volume here just a touch. In colder months, air dryers and air system maintenance are crucial to ensure the seventh injector is working correctly, and definitely drain the water from your air system. If you haven't done it lately, get that water out of there. What'll happen is anytime you compress air, whether it be on your truck or in a shop or whatever it is, if you don't have a functioning air dryer, compressing that air is going to push water out of it, causing it to condense and build up in your tank and could ultimately freeze. What else with the seventh injector? Carbon buildup on the seventh injector nozzle. Over time, unburned fuel can create carbon deposits on the seventh injector tip. This leads to poor fuel atomization, which prevents proper fuel misting into the exhaust stream, making a regen ineffective. So if your truck is struggling to regen, removing and inspecting the 7th injector, if you've got one, for carbon buildup should be part of the troubleshooting process. Potential fuel supply issues on the 7th injector. The 7th injector has its own fuel supply separate from the main injectors. And if the fuel line in the 7th injector is clogged or restricted or leaking, it won't deliver enough fuel for a successful regen. Potential issues with the dosing pump, clogged fuel filters, contaminated fuel can also affect 7th injector performance. Now, not every truck has a 7th injector. There are some Cummins engines that actually do in-cylinder injection. This would only apply to a truck with a 7th injector, which is a majority of the big trucks. So what to do if your 7th injector is causing regen problems? You check for compressed air leaks, inspect the nozzle, verify fuel delivery. Another thing can be low exhaust temperatures. And this can be really a struggle. If your engine isn't producing enough heat, your exhaust temperatures may never reach the level needed for a successful regen. Common causes for low exhaust temperatures include, and this may, there may be other ones I haven't thought of, is something as simple as a dirty air filter. A dirty air intake filter can choke airflow, reducing combustion efficiency and lowering exhaust temperature. So do your maintenance. Check your exhaust. Check the simple stuff first. Stuck Jake brake. If your engine brake is stuck in an on position, it can reduce exhaust heat output, preventing proper regen. Another thing is fan clutch stuck on. If your fan is running constantly instead of cycling on and off, it overcools the engine, which lowers exhaust temperatures and disrupts the regen process. Another thing is potentially DOC face plugging, which is a symptom of other issues. The DOC, the diesel oxidation catalyst, plays a key role in reaching the required regen temperature. Without the DOC, you couldn't have enough heat to actually burn the soot into gases and ash. So if the DOC is face plugged, it can block heat flow and airflow, making it impossible for the regen to burn off soot. Now keep in mind that the inlet of the DOC is going to be only about the temperature of the engine, and the outlet of the DOC will actually have, if it's working right, will be hot. So if your DOC gets face plugged, it's very, very difficult or even impossible for the regen to get that heat to work all the way back to burn the soot off of the EGR cooler. But if you do have a face plug DOC, it is usually, meaning pretty much always, a symptom of a larger issue like excessive soot from bad injectors, which is a particular problem on the Cummins 6.7 engine, on the Freightliner M2, International 4300, Ford 750 box truck, and some of the newer Hinos also have a Cummins 6.7. Otherwise, your DPF could just be full. And if that's the case, a regen, if it does work, is only a temporary fix. If your truck has been running pretty well and suddenly starts calling for a parked regen, understand that you'll only be able to do a parked regen successfully once, twice, maybe 3 times before the truck fully derates. So if your truck calls for a parked regen, that's just designed to get it, to do a parked regen and get you to a shop where you can get your DPF taken care of. So regen's only designed to burn off a layer of soot, doesn't remove any of the non-combustible ash that builds up over time. If your DPF has too much ash accumulation, regens won't be enough. The only solution is professional DPF cleaning or replacing it. So I did a video on TikTok a while ago, weeks ago actually, where I really talked about how your DPF is like the garbage can in your kitchen. At first, when it's empty, you can keep throwing trash in, and it holds everything just fine. And that would be normal soot accumulation. It's expected, and it's part of how the system works. But if you're in a hurry or lazy and don't want to take the trash out, what do? You crush it down with your foot to make more room. And that's what the regen cycle does. It burns off a lot of the soot, making room for more, and turning, about 99% of that soot, 99+% will turn into just simply combustion gases that are processed further downstream by the SCR, but it will leave a little bit of ash behind. So just like your garbage can, yes, you might be able to, crush that down, 90% from where it was, assuming it's all fluffy stuff, and make room for more. And the next day you've got a little bit more room, but then a little bit less room as you start putting stuff in it. And when you crush it down too many times and never actually empty the can, eventually you reach a point where there's no more room left and pushing down the trash doesn't work anymore. At that point, you can't just keep stuffing more garbage in. You actually need to take the trash out. And that's exactly what happens when your DPF is too full. The regen process can no longer keep up. And at that point, the only solution is coming to see us. Okay, let me think of a couple things that we can do to prevent regen failures. If you start to have, any issues, you just look to see in your exhaust system to see if you have any soot buildup where it should not be. So inspect your exhaust piping regularly. It's pretty easy to do. A loose clamp or cracked bellows downpipe can prevent a regen from working. Check your air system. Make sure you bleed any of the water out of it. If your truck does use compressed air for the 7th injector, make sure you don't have air leaks or frozen lines in cold weather. Maintain your air filters. A clogged intake air filter will cause a lot of issues. It'll reduce your fuel economy and power, but also can choke the airflow and lower exhaust temps, making regens less effective or even completely impossible. Make sure check your Jake brake, your fan clutch. Make sure your fan is cycling on and off. Both can lower exhaust temps and prevent a regen from starting. And again, I've got to give a shameless plug to Clean Air Fleet diesel additive. Anything like Clean Air Fleet will help reduce soot production at the source, meaning it's going to make your fuel burn more efficiently, more cleanly, giving you a bit more fuel economy, usually a bit more power, but also because you're burning all the fuel, you're producing less soot and extending the time between DPF cleanings. So what do you do if your truck is already having regen problems? If your truck won't complete a regen, your DPF likely needs to be professionally cleaned by us or somebody like us, and there's really no shortcut around it. So at DPF Guys, we will offer a free inspection to determine if your DPF needs cleaning or if another issue is preventing a regen from working, and simply call us anytime, 404-999, to schedule your inspection before your truck derates. Again, you can call us anytime or text us 404-999-1361. I hope that helps. Let me check to see if anybody's asked a question. No questions coming in from YouTube quite yet. Let's go to number 2. All right, number 2. It's actually kind of fits into number 1. How do I know when my DPF actually needs cleaning? Recognizing the signs that your diesel particulate filter, or DPF, requires cleaning is a crucial step for maintaining your truck's performance and avoiding costly repairs. So what are some of the key indicators that your DPF needs attention? Frequent regens. If your truck initiates regen cycles more often than usual, it's a clear sign that the DPF is nearing its capacity. This increased frequency of regen indicates the soot accumulation is outpacing the filter's ability to self-clean. Noticeable loss of power and fuel efficiency. A clogged DPF increases exhaust back pressure, forcing your engine to work harder, which means it's going to work harder to push exhaust through that dirty DPF, and it won't have as much oomph to pull whatever you're pulling. And normally, once it gets really bad, you'll have a noticeable sluggishness during acceleration for many trucks. Check your dash, warning lights, check engine lights. Specific DPF warning light in your dashboard signals that the filter is almost full or already clogged. These alerts should not be ignored, as they indicate the system is unable to perform the necessary regenerations effectively. Any of your diagnostic trouble codes, certain codes retrieved during diagnostics point directly to DPF issues. Common trouble codes associated with a clogged DPF filter include P2463, diesel particulate filter restriction. This can also indicate that you have a failing delta P or pressure differential sensor. But even if you have a failing pressure differential sensor or delta P sensor, and that's the sensor that monitors the inlet pressure of the DPF and the outlet pressure. And if the inlet pressure gets too high, the differential between the two is too high, it'll start to throw a code. This can happen when that pressure differential sensor is failing, but usually when the pressure differential sensor is failing, it's been quite a while between DPF cleanings. You're probably due for a DPF cleaning as well. But if you get your DPF cleaned and you still have codes like that, It could be a number of things, but it often tells me that there's a pressure differential or delta P sensor issue. Another one is SPN 3720 FMI 15. That means the diesel particulate filter has reached the end of service life. This code indicates that the DPF has accumulated the maximum allowable ash and needs replacement. And I'm a little kind of on the fence about this one because the code that says it's time to replace your DPF was created when there really wasn't a process like we use to clean them. So you really want to use that code to indicate that it's time to get it cleaned, really time to get it cleaned. That code comes up simply based upon engine hours or miles, and isn't really based on anything objective about the health of the DPF. So that's one where you want to bring it in. You probably don't need to buy new DPFs, but it's not a bad idea to get them. You need to get them cleaned, and it's optional if you want to replace them. You probably don't have to. In the process that we use, we do inspect your DPF to make sure it's not cracked or leaking or anything like that. And if it's in good condition, there's really no reason why we can't clean it. So another thing, it's important to note that if you're driving a truck that's new to you, you might have gotten it from a fleet or from a dealership that sells fleet trucks, and the fleets might come from Walmart or Schneider or Penske. These vehicles, when they're sold by the fleet, often have around 400,000 miles on them. And what will happen is after accumulating an additional 200,000 miles or so, usually, give or take, it's common to experience various emissions-related issues. Now, this doesn't mean that you bought a bad truck. Rather, to me, at least, it indicates that the DPF just simply wasn't clean before the truck was sold. And if the dealership tells you that they cleaned the DPF, they probably mean they ran a regen on the truck, but they didn't actually take the DPF off and clean it. I don't know any dealerships that actually clean the DPFs, even though I think they should. So professional DPF cleaning can restore your truck's performance, and with proper maintenance, you won't have to worry about it again for another 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, or even more miles, depending upon your engine and duty cycle. So, how to prevent this from happening? Again, we go back to regular maintenance. Incorporate DPF cleaning into your routine maintenance schedule. You might want to get it done, I always tell people to think about getting your DPF cleaned every 200,000 miles. Our industry recommends 150,000. I think that's a little bit soon. Again, the same thing. You might have a car that says change the oil every 10,000 miles, and you could do it every 3,000, but you probably want to do it every 5,000 or 6,000, and not wait till 10,000. So I always tell people, think about cleaning your DPF at 200,000 miles, and that means that you might get it done at 200, 190, 270, something like that. But you want to wait until you don't want to wait until your truck is calling for a parked regen, because that means it's getting ready to have you call a tow truck or have to limp that thing someplace at 5 miles per hour. And some people recommend doing it yearly. I'd say every other year. It depends how you drive the truck. If you drive team and put a lot of miles on that truck, you might get done every year. And done properly, there's really no limit on how many times you can clean a DPF. Done improperly, there are limits on it, but I don't know what they are because we do it the right way. Monitor your driving habits. Again, you sometimes don't have a lot of control over this. If you are an over-the-road driver, this is probably not an issue, but frequent short trips or excessive idling can prevent proper DPF regeneration. Most modern trucks are able to handle this. And, I always tell people that, if you get an APU, that solves this idling issue. But, the fact is, if you're going to be in a truck stop, taking a break, trying to get some sleep, and it's super hot or super cold out there, idle the truck. By all means, be comfortable, be safe, get a good night's sleep, be safe on the road. The truck will take care of itself. Now, ideally, idling is not the best thing for a truck. An APU is the way to go. But be comfortable, be safe, be warm, be cool, whatever it is. Just ensure your driving patterns, include some sort of extended highway driving to allow the truck to passively regen itself, which it will do just on the highway without having to park it. and then use quality fuel and additives. And again, Clean Air Fleet, great additive to put in your truck. Using high quality diesel fuel and appropriate additives can improve combustion efficiency, leading to cleaner exhaust and substantially reduced soot accumulation. And by simply keeping an eye on these signs and adhering to regular maintenance schedule, you can ensure optimal performance of your DPF and extend the lifetime of your truck's emission system. And if you suspect your DPF needs cleaning, you know what I'm going to say, don't wait. Call us at 404-999-1361 to schedule an appointment for an inspection. Again, that's 404-999-1361. All right. Oh, man, this is a good one. It's about the 14 to 15 Freightliners. Question number 3. Why does my 2014 or 2015 or 2016 Freightliner with the DD13 or DD15 engine keep throwing SCR efficiency codes? Oh, I wish I had a better news about this. This is a common problem with these model years, and it's something we see a lot at DPF Guys. So what's happening? Freightliner DD13 and DD15 engines from all of 2015, as well as some late 2014s and early 2016s, were programmed with a bad fuel map right from the factory. And while this is technically a 2015 model year problem, trucks manufactured in late 2014 kind of qualify as a 2015, and early 2016, even though they say 2016, are technically 2015s, and they suffered from this problem. And they still use the same programming and aftertreatment system, so they are effective as well. The faulty fuel map caused excessive heat buildup in the SCR, or the selective catalytic reduction system. It's the part that works with your DEF. And over time, that permanently damaged the SCR catalyst. So how to spot this issue? If you've got a 2015 vintage Freightliner, again, that's going to be 14, 15, and 16, and it's throwing emission codes, but only when it's under load, especially while pulling a trailer or climbing a hill, you're likely dealing with this problem I just talked about. And here's how you know. The truck will actually run great if it's bobtail or lightly loaded on a flat road, but it starts throwing codes when pulling a heavy load or climbing a grade. A forced regen normally clears the issue but comes back under load. And here are some of the things you will see if you have this issue. SPN 3364, and that's going to be SCR efficiency below threshold. SPN 3362, NOx sensor abnormal rate of change. SPN 3361, DEF quality low. SPN 3246, after treatment outlet NOx high. And this, if you have a 2015-ish, 14, 15, 16, and you start getting this code, save your money. Don't get the one box cleaned. Don't replace NOx sensors. You're going to need a new one box. And why just having us clean it won't fix it? Because this is not a DPF issue. Cleaning the filter won't help. The root problem is excessive heat damage to the SCR, which means regens won't solve it. New NOx sensors won't fix it. And replacing the DEF pump or DEF header won't do anything. Now, is there a patch, a temporary patch? And the answer is yes, possibly. Clean Air Fleet diesel additive is, I've recommended this to some people that are having this issue. And while this isn't a permanent fix, using Clean Air Fleet premium diesel additive can help manage the problem temporarily while you prepare for the real repair. So how does this help? Clean Air Fleet will improve combustion efficiency. More complete fuel burn means lower NOx emissions, putting less strain on the one box, less strain on the SCR on the one box. It reduces soot production. Keeping the engine cleaner means less frequent regens, helping prevent additional stress on the aftertreatment system. And this is definitely a Band-Aid, and it's just designed to keep your truck running well enough so that you can set aside some money to get a new one box in there. But it just delays the inevitable failure. While it won't repair your one box, it can buy you some time to plan for replacement, keeping you on the road longer without immediate derates and all those problems. Again, this is not a long-term solution, but if you need a stopgap measure while you budget for the repair, Clean Air Fleet can absolutely help extend the life of your system. And what is the actual only real solution? Since the SCR is permanently damaged, the only fix is to replace or to remanufacture the one box. So at DPF Guys, we do offer brand new one boxes with a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty. And we actually can remanufacture your one box with all new SCR components. And that would be an in-house one box rebuild. We can disassemble and rebuild your one box, replacing the damaged SCR while reusing any components that are still in good condition. This can be a bit more cost effective, though it's still not really cheap compared to full replacement, definitely compared to full replacement from the manufacturer. And then the thing is how to prevent this from happening again. So first of all, be proactive. If your Freightliner is showing early signs of this issue, don't wait until it's too late. Use high quality diesel fuel and additives like Clean Air Fleet. Better combustion means less soot, less strain on the after-treatment system. And call DPF Guys, call us before spending money on unnecessary repairs. Many shops waste many thousands of dollars replacing knock sensors, DEF components, and even full DOC DPF assemblies when the real issue is the SCR inside the one box. So if you're dealing with the codes that I just talked about, don't waste money guessing. Call DPF Guys at 404-999-1361 and we'll help you find the right solution. Again, text or call 404-999-1361 anytime, day or night. Now, there won't be a human to talk to you, but you can definitely call while it's on your mind, and someone will get back to you the next morning, and we'll get you taken care of. All right, here's another one. How often should I have a valve adjustment done on my engine? And this person, I think, had a Detroit. So valve adjustments, are also called an overhead, are one of the most overlooked maintenance items in a diesel engine. However, they play a huge role in keeping your engine running efficiently and preventing major after-treatment issues down the line. And I'm going to talk about the Detroits. That's the one that I'm asked about the most. And I simply, off the top of my head, I'm not really aware of what the intervals are for a Cummins or a PACCAR. So if you've got a Cummins or a PACCAR, just sit on your hands for a minute while I answer the Detroit question. If you've got a Detroit, listen carefully because this will apply to you. For DD13 and DD15 engines, Detroit Diesel recommends the first valve adjustment at 100,000 miles. Of course, if you bought a used truck, that should have already been done. And then every 500,000 miles after that. So if you just bought a used truck and it's pushing 500,000, get the valve adjustment done. If your engine is over 500,000 miles, you've never done a valve adjustment, it's time to get it checked. And so what happens if you don't do this? So over time, valve lash, which is the small gap between the valve and the rocker arm, normally drifts out of spec due to wear. If this gap becomes too big or too small, several serious issues can occur. One, loss of compression. This is the biggest one we worry about. Weaker combustion and more soot due to the loss of compression. A properly adjusted valve ensures that the engine maintains optimal compression for complete combustion. When compression is too low, the engine struggles to burn fuel efficiently, leading to an increased soot production. More soot means more frequent regens, putting extra strain in your DPF. Also causes power loss and poor fuel economy that become noticeable, especially under load. And the low compression can cause incomplete fuel combustion, incomplete fuel burn. And then guess what happens? That unburned fuel works its way down into your after-treatment system. The unburned fuel hits the DOC, which is the catalyst that magically makes that high temperature to regen your one box on a Detroit. And if you're constantly dropping unburned fuel into the after-treatment system, basically you're keeping it at a high temperature longer than it's designed for. And it will temperature shock the SCR. It'll start to vaporize the catalytic metals out of the SCR, and lo and behold, it'll simply stop working. And also, that high temperature can crack your DPFs, and that's definitely an issue. So if you build up soot, you get a lot of back pressure, which forces the engine to work harder. High exhaust temperatures can lead to thermal stress in the DPF and the SCR. You'll get cracked DPF media, which triggers the P2002 code. Now, again, this may not apply to the 15s because I don't think they had a soot sensor. That's right. Well, this valve adjustment apply to any of the Freightliners. If you're getting a low DPF efficiency code, what I would recommend is obviously you're going to have to get new DPFs in there because they are cracked. If you've dumped way too much soot into the SCR because of the cracked DPFs, you would need to get the entire one box clean to get that soot out. Not a big deal. But definitely get the overhead done, because if you run a truck that needs an overhead and don't get the overhead done, it can crack your DPFs, crack your brand new DPFs in as little as 15 or 20,000 miles. Also, the low compression can cause misfires, rough idling, and which means your engine's not breathing properly. And you're going to get irregular or weak combustion, which is the unburned diesel, rough idling and hesitation during acceleration, longer cranking times and difficulty starting in cold weather, and increased emissions and DEF system overload. Incomplete combustion creates excess soot and unburned hydrocarbons, which is the fancy word for unburned diesel, which overload the aftertreatment system, causing more frequent regens because the engine is dumping unburned fuel into the exhaust in the form of soot. Higher NOx emissions, which force the DEF system to work harder, consuming more DEF fluid and potentially leading to SCR issues. And premature failures of the NOx sensors, failures of the DOC, SCR components, leading to costly repairs. So how do you prevent it? Stick to the recommended valve adjustment schedule. And if you notice excessive soot buildup or frequent regens, check the valve lash. Or just basically remember the last time you got it done. If you don't remember, get it done. Misadjusted overhead could be the hidden cause for any of these things. And like always, use high quality diesel fuel, which you don't always have a lot of control of, but you do have a control over what additives you use, which is why we recommend shamelessly and regularly Clean Air Fleet Premium Diesel Additive to reduce soot and minimize the strain on the entire system. And just monitor DPF back pressure and regen frequency. If your truck is regenning too often, don't just clean the filter, check for upstream issues like compression loss. If your truck is past the 500,000 miles or showing sign of excessive soot buildup, don't wait until it cracks the DPF. Call DPF Guys at 404-999-1361 for expert advice and service. Again, call or text DPF Guys anytime, day or night, 404-999-1361, and somebody will take care of you. All right, let's see. I'm going to see if anything else came in on the chat. Not yet. Question number 5. Come on, question number 5. Go. There we go. Number 5. Can I just replace my NOx sensors instead of cleaning my after-treatment system? So a lot of people think that if the truck is throwing NOx sensors codes, they can just swap out the sensors and be done with it. But in reality, NOx codes don't always mean the sensors are bad. They could be actually good and just be a symptom of a larger issue. So replacing NOx sensors isn't always the solution. But as a dealership or a mechanic will go through the trouble tree, it's actually a common practice for mechanics and dealerships to immediately replace NOx sensors as part of the troubleshooting process. In fact, this is normally the process recommended by the manufacturer. The problem, a new NOx sensor can cost $500 or more, and if replacing it doesn't fix the issue, you've just wasted money, when the real problem could be elsewhere. Here are some common causes of NOx-related codes and that have nothing to do with the sensor itself. Full or clogged DPF. If your DPF is full, it throws off your after-treatment readings, making it look like the NOx system is not working properly. Sometimes, not on every truck, but on some. EGR system malfunctions. A failing EGR valve or cooler can disrupt the emission system, leading to false NOx readings. DEF system issues. If your truck isn't dosing the right amount of DEF, your NOx sensors can be picking up an efficiency problem rather than a sensor failure. SCR catalyst failure. If the SCR, or selective catalytic reduction, system is degraded or failing, it won't reduce NOx efficiently, triggering sensor-related codes. So, or you have a SCR, especially on a Volvo or a Mack, that is just getting a buildup of burned, kind of DEF ash, and It happens slowly. But what those trucks can go so long between cleanings, you might go 900,000 miles, and over that time, the SCR gets a layer of kind of dust inside it, and it can't properly function. So keep that in mind. And truth about NOx sensors, they are fragile, expensive, and sometimes necessary to replace. NOx sensors are actually delicate, and they're precision sensors that operate in an extremely nasty environment. They're constantly exposed to high temperatures, corrosive exhaust gases, and extreme vibrations. Over time, this exposure can cause them to fail outright, or they can start giving inaccurate readings. So yes, sometimes a NOx sensor really is bad and does need to be replaced, but here's the thing. NOx sensors fail more often when there's an underlying issue. For example, failing EGR, overloaded DPF can lead to soot contamination that damages the sensor. Some NOx sensor failures are just a symptom, not the root cause, and replacing them without fixing the real issue just means you'll be replacing them again soon. We only want to replace a NOx sensor, only want to replace anything really when it's actually required. So you're not wasting money on a new sensor when the real culprit might be something else. So here's how we do things a little different, or differently, if you want to say it properly. So we keep a stock of test NOx sensors. Most shops will just sell you a NOx sensor. If it doesn't fix the issue, you're on $500. But here at DPF Guys, we kind of take a slightly different approach. If we have your type of NOx sensor in stock, which we do most of the time, sometimes not, we'll actually install it for you for testing purposes. If the new sensor doesn't solve the issue, you can either keep the new sensor that was installed or put the old sensor back, assuming that it wasn't damaged or destroyed during removal, and keep your $500. Then we move on to diagnosing the real issue instead of just throwing expensive parts at the problem. This is designed to save you money and time by ensuring that you're only replacing what actually needs to be replaced. Before replacing a NOx sensor, check for upstream issues. Always check upstream stuff. A clogged DPF, bad EGR, failing SCR can all trigger false NOx codes. Use high quality fresh DEF fluid, and by high quality I simply mean fresh. All DEF is the same, but you want to make sure what you're using is not old, spoiled, contaminated, or anything like that. And then I would say, give DPF Guys a call before spending big bucks on unnecessary parts. We'll help you diagnose the real problem first instead of just guessing. So if you're dealing with persistent NOx sensor codes, don't waste money replacing parts that aren't the problem. Call DPF Guys, pressing the button at 404-999-1361, and we will help figure out what's really going on. Even call us now, 404-999-1361, or text us, and we'll definitely help you out. All right, what do we have here? Question number 6. Good. I can talk more about Clean Air Fleet. How does Clean Air Fleet additive actually help with emissions? Excuse me while I whip this out. Rah. All right, you're looking at here. Clean Air Fleet. It's a gallon. Treats 320 gallons of diesel, and it's about $36.50 a gallon. So how does that actually help with emissions? I get asked about fuel additives all the time. A lot of drivers just think additives are snake oil, and some of them kind of are, but the right additive can actually make a huge difference, especially when it comes to your emission system and your fuel system longevity. Clean Air Fleet diesel additive is designed specifically for modern diesel engines running DPF, DOC, and SCRs, but you can gladly run it on a non-emissions or even a deleted system. It'll still help everything. It does more than just improve the fuel. It actually helps reduce the wear and tear in your emission system, while also improving fuel economy, usually. Fuel economy can be a squirrely thing, so we can't just say it'll improve your fuel economy because depending upon how you drive and the weather and everything else, there's so many variables. But what you do with a good additive like Clean Air Fleet is going to improve your combustion efficiency. And that means the more completely your fuel burns, the less soot and NOx is produced. Less soot means longer intervals between regens and less DPF clogging. In other words, you have to see me less often. Also means better throttle response and more consistent power delivery. Another kind of added bonus is use Clean Air Fleet and reduce your DEF consumption. So normally you burn about 2 gallons of DEF for every 100 gallons of diesel. Kind of keep that in mind. But since Clean Air Fleet helps your fuel burn cleaner, your engine produces fewer NOx emissions. Less NOx, what does that mean? Less demand for DEF, which means lower DEF consumption, less risk of DEF system failures, fewer NOx-related emissions codes, and then moving more in the fuel system, you also prevent and flush out diesel fuel injector deposits. Dirty or partially clogged fuel injectors spray out even amounts of fuel, leading to incomplete combustion. This increases soot production and forces your DPF to work harder. And also, if you're not spraying your fuel efficiently and properly, you'll get less power, less fuel economy, all of that stuff. So Clean Air Fleet will help keep your injectors spick and span, super clean, ensuring proper fuel atomization and reduce soot at the source. Also, help your injectors last longer. Clean Air Fleet also protects against fuel contamination. Many drivers don't realize, I guess most people realize you don't want water in your fuel, but you don't realize how big of a problem it is. Because water spraying through your injector can damage the injector. In fact, over time, definitely will. Can wear out your fuel pump. And the only way that you can get microbial growth, like bacteria or algae growing in your diesel, is there has to be water in the diesel for that thing to actually grow. So if you drop the water out of your diesel fuel, you reduce or eliminate any of the the biocontamination that happens in the diesel fuel. So Clean Air Fleet demulsifies the water, drops the water out, means causes the water to separate from the fuel so it can be drained properly instead of being pushed through your injectors in a high pressure fuel system. Another thing is reduces asphaltene buildup in fuel tanks. And asphaltene is basically asphalt. It's sticky, tar-like, in its that form in modern ultra-low sulfur diesel. And these asphaltene deposits are just goopy, and they clog up fuel filters, fuel lines, injectors, and that just will reduce engine performance substantially. Clean Air Fleet stabilizes fuel and prevents asphaltene formation. It will also dissolve the asphaltenes that are currently in your system, keeping your system cleaner for longer. And why does this matter for you and your after-treatment system? By reducing soot at the source, meaning actually in the cylinder when the fuel is combusting. Clean Air Fleet helps protect your entire emission system, including your DPF, less soot buildup, less regens, longer filter life, fewer, you have to see me less often, which is not good for me, but it's good for you. Diesel oxidation catalyst, less unburned fuel passing through the DOC, which means the DOC stays cleaner. It helps your SCR. Fewer NOx emissions mean less strain in the DEF system. And what's the bottom line? Less soot, fewer regens, better fuel economy, and a healthier after-treatment system. First-time offer, a limited time offer for first-time customers here. Right now, you're getting 10% off your first order of a 4-gallon case of Clean Air Fleet. The 4-gallon case will treat 1,280 gallons of diesel fuel. And give it a shot. I think you will like it. If you want to find out more about Clean Air Fleet or anything else, call DPF Guys at 404-999-1361, and we'll get you set up. Again, call us anytime or text us, 404-999-1361. We're here for you. All right. Question number 7. Let me quick check to see if there's anything else hiding out here. Nothing yet. Okay, what happens if I run my truck with a completely clogged DPF? So if your DPF is completely clogged, it's only a matter of time before your truck goes into limp mode or a D rate, which means you maybe be limited to 5 miles per hour. It gets really bad, the truck won't even crank. But even before that point, you'll start to see major performance issues that can lead to catastrophic damage. So how does a really clogged DPF affect your truck? Basically increased exhaust back pressure. A clogged DPF restricts airflow, forcing your engine and turbocharger to work that much harder just to push exhaust out. This you'll notice this with higher fuel consumption, loss of power and acceleration, sluggish performance, especially under load, excessive soot buildup throughout the system. And soot can begin to build up not just in the DPF, it'll work its way backward through the DOC, through the turbo, EGR cooler, etc. Turbocharger strain and damage. Your turbocharger relies on exhaust flow to function properly. When the DPF is blocked, the flow is severely restricted, causing higher exhaust manifold pressures, which can lead to gasket leaks and excessive heat retention in the turbocharger. And of course, the gasket leaks, if they're on the exhaust side, are going to affect your ability to do a regen. If the gasket leaks are on the bearing or oil side, they can cause turbo failure, and that's really a mess. Oil leaks and bearing failure. Back pressure forces oil past the turbo seals, leading to premature wear and ultimate complete turbo failure. If the issue is left unresolved, the turbo could eventually fail due to excessive heat and restricted airflow. Failed turbo doesn't just mean replacing the turbo. It can also send oil and debris into your aftertreatment system, making the damage even worse and more expensive. Also, what can happen is the carbon buildup on your exhaust pipes, especially the exhaust leading to your turbo, if it gets really bad. Remember, your turbo spinning at about 30,000 RPMs, faster than the speed of sound. And if a chunk of carbon falls off the wall of your exhaust pipe before the turbo gets sucked into the turbo vanes, that thing will blow up like a bomb. So, you really need to keep your DPF clean and not let it get really bad, because it's going to cause other issues. Heat buildup in the DOC and SCR. When the DPF is clogged, the diesel oxidation catalyst, or DOC, and the SCR start absorbing excess heat because the exhaust gases have nowhere to go. This can lead to melting and cracking of the DOC and DPF, not so much the SCR, but DPF. And these components do rely on constant airflow to function and stay cool. Excess heat can permanently damage them, requiring expensive replacements. DEF system malfunctions. The SCR relies on precise temperature ranges to reduce NOx emissions. A clogged DPF throws that balance off, making your DEF system work harder and fail sooner. If your DOC and SCR fail, replacing them can cost $5,000 to $10,000 or more, and you just want to avoid that at all costs. If you let things go too long, it can damage the DPF brick, push it out of place, and actually, the excessive pressure that's built up with the plugged up DPF will cause that ceramic brick to push forward. It can shear off your sensors. We can fix all of this, but there are things that, ounce of prevention, pound of cure type of thing. So if your DPF really gets damaged, where it's melted or cracked, anything like that, unfortunately, cleaning is no longer an option. The DPF must be replaced. And if that thing pushed itself to a point where it was shearing off sensors, you might need new sensors as well. And if the ECM detects extreme back pressure, it will put the truck into forced derate, and the engine won't be able to clear the exhaust gases, preventing combustion, which means you can't even start the thing. So in severe cases, your engine can stall out or refuse to start. And at this point, you're going to need to be hooked up the back of a tow truck, and that's going to cost you hundreds or thousands of bucks. And so you want to prevent that from happening by paying attention to early warning signs. If you notice frequent requests for parked regen, loss of power, excessive fuel consumption, get your DPF checked. And you want to get your DPF cleaned before it's fully clogged. Regular cleaning can extend the life of your entire aftertreatment system. And of course, use Clean Air Fleet. That can definitely help extend the life of all of this stuff. If you want to hear more about this or have any questions about your particular situation, give us a call or a text at 404-999-1361. Again, 404-999-1361. That's how you get a hold of us anytime, day or night. If you call at night or a weekend, you're going to talk to a machine for a minute, but we'll still get back to you the next morning or when we're up having our coffee. All right, number 8. Can a bad fuel injector ruin my after-treatment system? And not only can it, but it will. So the answer is absolutely. A failing fuel injector can cause a ton of problems, and if left unchecked, can destroy your entire after-treatment system. But this is especially important if you're driving a truck with a Cummins 6.7 engine. This is even more critical then, because the injectors in these engines almost always fail at around 250,000 miles. Let me tell you that again, because injectors on these engines will almost always fail at 250,000 miles. Cummins 6.7 injectors. If you own a truck with a Cummins 6.7, that's going to be a Freightliner M2, International 4300, Ford F750 box truck, and the newer Hino models. You need to know this. At 250,000 miles, the factory injectors in the engines almost always begin to fail. And this leads to overfueling, which completely wrecks the after-treatment system over time. No matter what you do downstream, replacing DPFs, DOCs, NOx sensors, or SCRs, if you don't replace the injectors, the problem will keep coming back. It could come back in literally a few hundred miles. So a bad injector is going to cause overfueling, and that overfueling produces heat. That heat will then shock the DPF, causing it to crack. The cracks in the DPF will then let dirty exhaust into the SCR, cause the SCR to stop working. It is a mess. So if your fuel injectors are overfueling, the excess fuel doesn't fully burn, and instead it gets pushed into the exhaust system. And this leads to thermal shock inside the DPF, causing the ceramic brick to crack. Once the DPF is cracked, it can't be cleaned. It has to be replaced. The high level of soot could overload and face plug the DOC and DPF. And what happens is a failing injector doesn't atomize the fuel properly, leading to incomplete combustion, and in turn, soot. More soot equals more frequent regens, and eventually the DOC and DPF can become completely plugged. Once the DOC face plugs or soot packs, depending on what you call it, a regen will simply won't work, and cleaning won't fix it. You're looking at a replacement. Soot fuel poison the SCR catalyst. If too much unburned fuel and soot pass through the system, and assuming it cracks your DPF, the soot can coat the SCR catalyst and prevent it from working, and will cause, SCR codes and NOx conversion efficiency codes. Also, all of that added soot can plug up your EGR cooler, your EGR valve, and excess soot from overfueling doesn't just damage just doesn't damage the after-treatment system. It also clogs the EGR system. This can lead to EGR valve failures, EGR cooler plugging, and excessive engine carbon buildup. It absolutely will do this. So if you've got a Cummins 6.7, Freightliner M2, International 4300, Ford F750, or a newer Hino, and it's got 250,000 miles, you need new injectors, period. If you're seeing excessive soot production, frequent regens, or DPF, DOC, or SCR failures, don't just assume it's an after-treatment system, after-treatment problem. Check your injectors first. The problem with this is that this failure of the injectors does not produce any sort of code. So you kind of have to trust me on this. If you got 250,000 miles on a truck with a Cummins 6.7, replace all 6 injectors before spending thousands on after-treatment parts. If your injectors are overfueling, cleaning your DPF will not help, nor will replacing the DPF, because the problem will come right back. If you replace your DPF or DOC or SCR without addressing the injectors, you'll be replacing them again in literally no time. So hate to say it, I mean, new injectors are going to be $300-400 a piece, plus the labor to put them in. Always do injector cups as well. So you're at, just for the parts, you're at $2,500 basically. But proactively replace those injectors at 250,000 miles. don't wait for after-treatment failures to happen first, because now you'll have the expense of the after-treatment failure and downtime and the injectors. Using a high-quality fuel additive like Clean Air Fleet, which I've said before, can actually help your injectors last longer, actually last a lot longer, and check for signs of overfueling. If you notice excessive soot production, poor fuel economy, sluggish performance, I was going to, it says test your injectors immediately, but it doesn't even pay to test them, because you're going to find that 1 or 2 or 3 are bad, and the other ones that aren't bad yet are going to be bad soon. And testing your injector is going to cost you $400 or $500, plus the labor of taking them out and everything else. So get a new 6-pack of injectors, change them out, and be good for another 250,000 miles. So call us before replacing expensive after-treatment parts, and we'll help you diagnose the real issue first, so you're not throwing money at the wrong fix. If you're dealing with persistent emissions problems, don't waste money guessing. Call us at 404-999-1361 and figure out what's really going on. Again, text or call us anytime, 404-999-1361. All right, what's another one here? Number 9. It's true that a cracked DPF will always trigger a P2002 code. And the answer is yes. P2002 means DPF efficiency below threshold. And the most common cause is a cracked or breached filter. But here's the important part. A cracked DPF is always a symptom of an upstream problem and not the root cause. I should say almost, but I mean 9 times out of 10, if the DPF is cracked, there's something happening upstream. A DPF just doesn't crack on its own. Something upstream in the engine usually causes it. Most common culprits are bad injectors. We just talked about them on the Freightliner M2s, coming 6.7. Failing or worn injectors dump excessive fuel into the combustion chamber. The excessive fuel doesn't properly burn completely, leading to extreme heat buildup inside the DPF. The ceramic filter inside the DPF overheats and cracks. It's now, again, that ceramic is pretty tough, but everything has a breaking point. So over time, it will definitely crack that. And much sooner, it will definitely plug it up. I mean, you can basically, a lot of times people will barely make it around the corner before things are plugged up again. Or you have low compression, usually due to a valve adjustment requirement. So if your valve lash is out of spec, the engine loses compression and doesn't burn fuel efficiently. Incomplete combustion leads to excessive soot, which overloads the DPF. Excessive back pressure and heat cause the DPF substrate to crack. Also, severe back pressure from a clogged DPF. If the DPF is too full, back pressure becomes so high that ceramic filter shifts or cracks inside the housing, pushes out, makes a mess, cuts off the temp sensors and what have you. And that's why ignoring regens when the truck asks for them. If your truck asks for a parked regen, it's asking for a DPF cleaning, actually. Delaying DPF cleaning could lead to costly replacement instead of just maintenance. But in sometimes in a rare case, it could just be a bad sensor. So sometimes the P2002 code is triggered by a bad differential pressure sensor, not a cracked DPF. Well, actually, it's not a pressure differential sensor. It is what would actually cause that is probably a failing soot sensor. If you get this code, it's important to verify the actual condition of the filter before replacing the sensor. Or you simply, if you pop the sensor out and it's got black soot on it, or if you've got soot in your tailpipe, the sensor is sensing soot, so it's doing its job. Soot sensors also play a role in monitoring DPF efficiency. However, most trucks prior to 2017 do not have soot sensors, which means a P2002 code on older trucks is less likely to be related to a faulty soot sensor because there is no soot sensor. Some of the trucks as early as 2014 do have them, but this is rare. A majority of vehicles with soot sensors are from 2017 and newer. So how to tell if your DPF is actually cracked? The simplest way is to look at your stack or your tailpipe. If, again, assuming you've got a duckbill a grass burner type tailpipe, and you reach out and rub your fingers inside that thing, they come back with any black soot on it, that's telling you that your DPF is cracked. End of story. There should be no soot on that whatsoever. At most, maybe a light white kind of chalky substance, but there really shouldn't be anything in there at all. You might just pick up, a little gray from road dust or a little bit of red from the rust inside the exhaust pipe, but no black soot. If there's any amount of black soot on the tailpipe, you have an issue. So, what we do then is we pull the DPF off, inspect it for physical damage, but what happens if you keep driving the cracked DPF? Your cracked DPF won't properly trap soot, which means your truck will fail emissions tests, but more importantly, soot will clog your SCR system, leading to expensive NOx efficiency failures. You'll keep getting regen failures and P2002 codes until the filter is replaced. So, what you can do here is, if you've got a Cummins 6.7, replace those injectors every 250,000 miles. Perform a valve adjustment to avoid low compression in one or more cylinders due to the misadjusted valve train. Get your DPF cleaned regularly, every couple 100,000 miles. Think about it. If you come in to see us every 200, 300, 400,000 miles, you're going to be in really good shape. And use a good additive such as Clean Air Fleet to get your combustion running much more efficiently, reduce your soot production, and extend your DPF life. So if you do see a P2002 code and there's soot in your tailpipe, your DPF is cracked and needs to get replaced, cleaning won't fix it, replacing sensors won't fix it, and ignoring this will eventually destroy your SCR and cost you even more. So if you're dealing with P2002 code, don't waste money guessing. Call DPF Guys at 404-999-1361. Call us or text us, 404-999-1361. All right, last question. I'm going to check to see if anyone left anything. They did not. Kind of a quiet night tonight. Come on, there we go. Number 10. Do aftermarket DOCs and DPF filters actually work? And it depends. Actually, there's a big difference between a quality aftermarket DPF and a cheap one. So what happens with the cheap ones? They do clog faster, and they're generally cheap for a reason, because the welds aren't quite as nice, and the components aren't quite as nice, and they will fail sooner. Now you might save $400, but you instead of having a filter that's going to last you the remaining life of your truck, hopefully, it might only last you a few years. But all DPFs sold have to meet the EPA requirements. Everything we sell meets or exceeds, and that's why the aftermarket DPFs, DOCs, and one boxes are different from DPF Guys. We only sell OEM grade and EPA compliant filters that meet or exceed manufacturer standards, and ours are all made in the U.S. They're manufactured right in the USA, not overseas at some Chinese factory. In fact, the factory is not far from our shop, which is really cool. We frequently, like every month or two, we do visit them to ensure quality control. And if there is ever an issue, they're always available to help resolve it quickly. All of our DOC, DPF, and one boxes are built to OEM specifications, meaning they perform just as well, if not better, than factory parts. And they're guaranteed to meet EPA regulations, so you won't get fined for non-compliant emissions parts. All of our new aftermarket parts, our DPF, DOCs, one boxes, etc., do have a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty. And there's just, no gimmicks, no loopholes. However, if there's a failure that's due to something going on upstream, such as misfires in the engine or overfueling or whatever, unfortunately, that's not covered under the warranty. But if everything's healthy in your engine, you are covered by a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty. We don't care if you drive 1 million miles in those 3 years, your warranty does cover you. And of course, just as an aside, we do offer more than just filters. We do sell the complete one boxes. many sensors, pipes, and after treatment components. So there you go. If you want to get our additive and save get a 10% discount on your first case, just text the word additive to us at 404-999-1361. Text the word additive to 404-999-1361. And we could definitely help you out. So that wraps up today's Q&A live. If you are watching this afterwards on Facebook or YouTube, or wherever you're checking it out, make sure that if you do have any questions that come to mind, just leave them below in the comments. I'll see them and definitely answer them. If you want to text or call and leave a question, ask us a question anytime, day or night, give us your codes, give us your phone number, etc. We'll give you a call back, or you'll reach somebody during the day. 404-999-1361. Actually had a couple of calls coming this weekend, a couple of texts coming this weekend. I've already answered those. So we're not afraid to help you out. So we covered a lot, everything from why regens fail, how injectors destroy after-treatment systems, to why aftermarket DPF is totally cool. If you stuck with us through the whole show, remember, if your truck is throwing emissions codes, don't just start replacing sensors and hoping for the best. Diagnose the root cause first. If you've got a truck with a Cummins 6.7 engine with 250,000 miles or more, hate to say it, but you need new injectors, no exceptions, unless you're incredibly lucky. If you're seeing P2002 codes and you see soot in your tailpipe, your DPF is cracked. Cleaning it will not fix it. You have to replace it. If you're tired of frequent regens and high DEF consumption, try Clean Air Fleet. We're going to offer you a 10% discount on your first 4-gallon case. So at DPF Guys, we try to do things a little different. We focus on real solutions instead of just throwing parts at the problem. If you need help diagnosing an emissions issue, if you're looking for high-quality DOCs, DPF oneboxes, or any other parts or sensors, give us a call or text at 404-999-1361. 404-999-1361. I appreciate every one of you who has tuned in either for the live or in the future. We'll be back next week with more answers, more advice, and as always, hopefully a little bit of fun. Until then, stay safe, keep those trucks running, and we'll see you on the next DPF Guys Live.
Yo, we step up in the scene, check your engine is clean. DPF Guys got your ride smoking green. No block, no drag, just pure machine. Come show us your truck, we'll make it pristine. We just